So, Andrew, we are going to talk about lots and lots of different stuff today. You're someone who's spent a long time walking around the streets of Belfast. You've seen probably things that would shock most of our listeners. You've had encounters and experiences that would blow our minds. Can you just kick us off with, like, I don't know, maybe a story, any story that jumps into your head of an encounter you've had with a stranger on the streets of Belfast, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so very, very, very early in this walk. So for me, you know, I'm obviously approaching the city from a point of view in this chaplaincy as somebody who's coming with a sort of looking through the lens of a Christian faith. And for me, that Christian faith is a very practical thing. It's not, you know, put on your good clothes and go and sit and do weird things in a dedicated building on a Sunday morning for an hour. It's
huge
actually,
black Bible.
yeah, no, and, you know, ooh. For me, it's really practical, and you know, it's a pair of jeans and going and sitting with people and having wonderful conversations, and actually showing people what love looks like. If I had to sum it up, for me, my faith is about showing people what love looks like, and if I wanted to push that a wee bit further, what community can look like, and what it means to be connected in a community where you're respected and loved and accepted. So I'm setting off in the early days of the chaplaincy, 2018. I've just started this thing. I'm on my own. Nobody else has joined me yet. I'm standing in the city and I'm thinking, what on earth have you done and what are you going to do here? So I'll go for a walk. I've gone down to Quick Copy, which is that like little shop beside near the Albert Clock that does. So I joined the queue for these like women who were all like getting T-shirts for a hen party, and there was a couple of guys in the queue for like a
the
T-shirt for a stag party. Yeah,
I know exactly where you are now.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So like there's all these young people gearing up for a mad weekend in the city, and then comes my turn in the queue, and I'm like, I want a jacket that says chaplain on it, and the guy sort of looks at me and goes, like what?
Like Charlie?
Yeah. And I know CHAPLAIN, one out written across big letters across the back of it. He goes, right, okay. So I get this chaplain's jacket 3 or 4 days later, and I put it on. Oh, what I'm going to do, I'll go for a walk and see who I meet. So there's this homeless guy on Ann Street, and I thought, I know, and this was one of my really early lessons actually about respecting people. I thought, I know, I'll get him a sandwich and a cup of tea. So I went into Nero, just sort of opposite the side door of Victoria Square, and I buys this like chicken salad sandwich and a cup of tea, and I comes out like, and here's me, the great Christian out to save the world.
I've got my chaplain jacket on.
I've got my chaplain
Here
jacket
we go.
on. We're cooking on collar here. And I like presents this guy this chicken sandwich and a cup of tea, the big hero, like on the white horse, you know. And he goes, well, you can shove that sandwich right up your nose, he says. And I'm like, what? And do you know how many sandwiches I've been given the day, said?
Wow.
And he proceeded to give me a lecture about assuming and presuming things about people. And he was very articulate in his lecture. And I was truly and utterly and totally humbled. And then I took it, so I'm old enough and I've taken enough things in the chin in my time, and you stand your ground here. So I took it, and it was fair play, and he was right. And then we sat down and we had a really good conversation for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
And I went away, and there's a story, and I'm not going to preach this, but there's a story in the Bible about Jesus who meets this blind man called Bartimaeus.
Okay.
And Bartimaeus is blind. And, you know, of course, in the Gospels, Jesus got this reputation of going around physically healing people apart from other things. But he doesn't walk up like me with a guy, he needs a chicken sandwich. He doesn't walk up to Bartimaeus and go, he's blind, he needs healed. He walks up to Bartimaeus and he says, what do you want me to do for you? Now there's respect right there, because he's not assuming and presuming anything. And he's absolutely given Bartimaeus total dignity for him to have his own life and make his own choices and decide what he wants and doesn't want. And that was just a really early encounter that taught me a lesson about how we approach people and how we don't assume and we don't judge and we don't decide what's better for somebody else, even if we think their life's looking like a mess. No judgment, no assuming. Give people dignity. Their life's as valuable as my life. Their choices are as valuable and as worthy as my choices. Let's just have a conversation as two equals and see where it goes. So that was an early encounter that I learned a lot from.
Wow. You know, I've heard that story my whole life, and I've never understood why he asked the question. Because, you know, you're thinking, blind man, this is Jesus, the magic man who can, you know, open eyes. What do you think he was? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's that dignity and that respect. It's really interesting. So basically you're standing on the streets. Tell us a wee bit about your ethos. Like, you're going out on the streets. You have this thing called City Centre Chaplaincy. Like, what's the whole idea behind it?
So faith for me is an incarnational thing. It has to have flesh and blood. So Christians believe in a God who became flesh and blood, and who then said, as the Father sent me, I'm sending you. So his body still has to have flesh and blood. So I'm trying to put flesh and blood to the faith that I believe in on the city centre streets. And I'm trying to build that up to a level where any day you come into the city centre, there's somebody with one of those chaplain's jackets on, and that they're there. They're not there to preach at people. We don't preach. They're not there to judge. We've talked about that, about the man with the sandwich. We're not there to make assumptions about people or to say that our life's better than your life. That's not what this is about. What it is about is to care for people, to listen. The world has a great shortage of people who have time, really time to listen. And you go to the doctor, and on average at the minute, your doctor can give you 4 minutes. You go to for some of the people that we work with who are homeless, you go into the housing executive, and you're one of a huge number in a queue sitting in the housing centre waiting to be seen. And the housing executive staff are fantastic. They really are. They're brilliant. But they've only so long to listen to you because there's a queue.
Yeah.
Our chaplains can sit and listen all day, and they're trained. We actually have a number of our training sessions when they do their training course is actually what we call it active listening. They're actually trained listeners. And that in itself is a great gift to people, the ability to allow people, no matter what stresses they're under, to just share, get stuff off their chest, talk to somebody that they know will take that to the grave with them. And sometimes it's, so another quick story, outside one of our national retailers one day, guy sitting in the street, I'd learnt my lesson, did it much better this time, sat, listened, we had a really good conversation. And then I cut through one of our major multiple retailers. Now, from a city centre manager days, I know most of the store managers and they know me. And the particular store that I was in, one of the management team called me over. And can I have a chat, Andrew? And their life at that point was in a real point of chaos and difficulty. And I went home and I reflected on who needed me most that day. Was it the guy on the street who didn't have a home? Or was it a successful manager in a business in the city centre? And actually the person who needed me more that day was the successful manager.
Wow.
There are times when we all need somebody, and our chaplains can be that somebody. I'm very passionate at it's interdenominational, so we have people from the Catholic Church, we have people from the Methodist Church like me, we've Anglicans, we've Baptists, we've Pentecostals, we've, so we're really interdenominational. And I think in the context of Northern Ireland and a divided community, that in itself says something. Here's people who can come together in one community, irrespective of some differences in belief, and they can simply work together and serve together and love one another in order to love other people.
Yeah.
So hopefully that describes something what we're about.
Absolutely.
In terms of how the process we use, and we'll have a process and we've thought through carefully, we begin by just being present in a place. So the chaplains will go in. So our most mature work, if I could call it that, St George's Market. So we've got a couple of chaplains in St George's Market now every Friday and every Saturday for the past 5 years.
Class.
And the traders recently said to Guy David Barber, who's one of our chaplains in there, David and Carol are our two fantastic chaplains in St George's Market. So if you're in the market and you see a guy or a girl or both of them together in chaplain's jackets, they're called David and Carol, and they're just wonderful. One of the traders said to David, you're actually one of our team. And it just shows how much the traders actually value them. They consider them to be part of the team. And they now go to the weddings and they go to the funerals and they go to the baptisms and they go to the bar mitzvahs. And they're part of that community.
Yeah.
So, and it starts with just being present. And then, I mean, people know who we are. Our logo on our jacket has the T in centre, says City Centre Chaplaincy, and the T in centre's a wee green cross. So people know who we are. You know, I mean, we're not hiding who we are. We do come from a faith perspective, a Christian. They will, in time, want to ask their questions around that. But we never raise it. It's never on our agenda. It's always on the other person's agenda. They'll say, well, you know, well, what is it actually you believe? Or maybe they'll say, actually, I don't believe. And I think that's a lot of young nonsense. Quite often they'll say something like, I had one guy said to me one day, I think you're effing mad, but I think you're great. and I don't believe what you believe. And that's fine. And we had a bit of a conversation around that. But somewhere down the line, this it tends to turn, and there's some conversations about faith come up. And from our side of that, we'll never raise it. It's always on the other person's agenda, but we're grateful when it is raised. And we would want to explain how we understand Christianity, that, you know, it's not this hats on a Sunday, it's not bells and smells, it's not judgmental, it's not that we think we're better than you. It really isn't. It's actually, we think with some love to give.
Yeah. So you go back to the store manager's a really good example. I had a guy in here recently for coffee, and he said something I'd never heard before. He says, you know, if you actually really look at the Gospels, he says most of the stories, most of the miracles, most of the big Jesus moments were interruptions. They were not part of the regularly scheduled program. And when you were talking earlier about how you guys go out there and you've no agenda and you're just standing there and you just try to make yourself available for people, and how so few of us in our day-to-day lives now even have the capacity or the time to do that, because we're rushing here, we're rushing there, we've got this appointment, we've got that appointment, got to pick the kids up, got to go. Life has become so fast and frenetic that it's so rare to actually see someone even just standing there waiting to see what happens.
Well, funny. I mean, I think that's absolutely right. And one of our new chaplains, just out of the last training course, we run 2 training courses every year, one in spring and one in autumn. And one of the ladies who was commissioned as a chaplain off the last training course said to me yesterday, actually, her and I, we bought a lunch together in East Belfast Missions Cafe yesterday, and she said to me, "What do you think the difference is between a chaplain and just like being a Christian?" And it was a great question, and my answer to her off the top of the head was, and I was thinking about it last night, and I think I actually managed to get it right off the top of my head, actually. Of course, as just individual Christians, and people who are not Christians, we don't have a monopoly on love. We don't. People of course, people go around and hopefully spend their week being loving and caring and respectful and engaging with the people they meet around them. The difference with a chaplain is they've decided to do some specific training to help them do that well. And then they have set time, dedicated time aside to go and do it in a very particular place. They have busy lives. They have families to look after. They have jobs to do. They have household chores, all the rest of the stuff. But they have decided, I've got that window there which I could give to this, and I'm going to go and do the training, and I'm going to commit to, and for us the minimum commitment's a half day a month is the minimum commitment, and for some people that's all they're able to do, a half day a month. But they set that time aside, and they put the jacket on, and they go to the same place because the same chaplains stay in the same places so that we can build up relationships. And that's the only difference. We're taking that busy life and in our diaries, in a managed way, setting a bit aside to go and do this in an intentional, I suppose that's the way to put it, in a very intentional way.
It's really interesting. I used to work for Deliveroo, cycling burritos around the city. And I must have done. I must have done it for 3 years, and I was doing it for certainly one or 2 years, really kind of full time. And it's amazing how you get to know people by just going down the same wee streets, the same time every day, the same people waiting for the bus, the same people getting their coffee, the same guy on shift in the restaurant. You know, you walk through a city like Belfast, particularly through, you know, Corn Market and Victoria Square, and just as all this big, you know, massive tentacles of people and just swarms and swarms. But there's actually a real rhythm and predictability to it once you start to actually stop and look. It's really, really crazy.
Yeah, I think if we actually all analysed what we do week in, week out on certain days, it'd be scary how regimented we are. I'm sure we would. So yeah, and that's what we do. We just carve some time out, do the course, do the training, go out there and try and do it well with a dedicated group of people.
Yeah,
and and when you hear the chaplains themselves, we've currently been really fortunate to be introduced to someone within Northern Ireland who's a very successful business career, and now quite a successful career actually in various public sector boards and so on, who's helping us to think about how we grow this. Because for us to help more people, and we are out there to help, for us to help more people, we need to grow this, and we need more chaplains. Mm-hmm. So when we're getting 3 and 4 in a training course, I need 10, 15 in a training course. Mm-hmm. We've currently got 23 chaplains. I could really do with 100.
Yeah.
So as we've engaged with this gentleman who's helping us think about how we grow this, he wanted to meet the chaplains. So we've been out and we've been having these wonderful conversations in coffee shops with the chaplains coming to meet this guy who's helping us think about how we grow. And the thing that he identified was actually the change in the chaplains themselves and their own stories, and what it has done for what this volunteering has done for them, and the sense of, and to use the language that people of faith would use, like it's been a blessing to them. So in a sense, they have gone out with a desire and a genuine and a sincere and a humble desire to bless other people, but actually they've been deeply blessed by the whole thing themselves.
So talk a wee bit about that. So what your volunteers, what do they get out of it, for lack of a better term? How is it changing them?
I think there's a lot of people in the church who know that faith should be more than just about what happens in a worship service on a Sunday morning. They have a deep down need for their faith to be a practical faith, which makes a difference in the world and makes a difference in the city. That makes the place that they live or the place that they work a better place. The chaplaincy's offered a vehicle for many of them for whom chaplaincy is the right model of exercising their faith. It's offered them a vehicle to come and be trained, to get involved, to do it in a really well-governed, well-structured, professionally run way. So, you know, we are a limited company, not-for-profit company. We are a registered charity of the Charity Commission in Northern Ireland. We have our proper governance documents. We have a board of trustees. You know, as a leader, I'm an experienced leader. I've been leading companies for 30 years. So it is, well, I have to say, professionally set up and professionally operated. And that's given people a chance to come off the pews in a safe and well-managed way and get involved in what otherwise could be challenging work, because, you know, 7 of our chaplains just really concentrate on working with the homeless and those who have addictions in the city. Well, depending on what substances they may have taken in a day, that can be challenging work. So I'm enabling, in at least a couple of cases, people out of the 23, people who are over 80, who thought that perhaps their sort of life of service to the community was something that they'd done in the past. They literally get out in the streets with people who are drug addicted.
Mad.
So I'm giving young people with addictions in the city centre a granny.
Yeah.
In the middle of Ann Street, who'll roll up and, I mean, one of our chaplains, Naomi, she's and I hope Naomi doesn't mind me mentioning this. I don't think she will. And she's on her little, frame, the walking frame.
Yeah.
But it opens out into a seat. And I seen Naomi last Friday, and I will not reveal the location in danger of revealing the person, but there was a homeless person in the city, and Naomi had come along. She'd opened the thing, she'd sat down in the seat. We got this person a cup of tea, and Naomi's, and it is like putting your granny on the street.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they don't have that in their life. They don't have somebody like that in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us do, thank goodness, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. So when you started...
So that's a real blessing to Naomi.
Yeah.
There are others who... So there's a Japanese art called kintsugi. If you
Never
remember
heard of
kintsugi?
it.
Right, okay. So Japanese art of kintsugi is taking broken pottery and mending it,
Oh, nice.
right? But what the kintsugi artist does is he paints, he puts the, say it's a broken bowl, he puts it together with gold, liquid gold. So you're left when the pot or the whatever's rebuilt, that you've got this beautiful pot with this mad design of gold lines all through it. The beauty's in the brokenness.
Mm.
What the artist has done is taken the bit that was broken and make that the thing of beauty. Often in our chaplains, when you discover, because we all have broken bits in our life, we all do.
You're right about that.
When you talk to our chaplains, and when they started to tell this guy who's come along to help their stories, what we identified was it was often the brokenness in their past, the bits where they had pain, that was now turning to gold on the streets, because that's who they were able to help.
Mm.
People who are going through or have some experience that they've had in the past. And it makes their help a really genuine help. It's real.
Mm.
They've been there. It's not just some holier-than-thou Christian who thinks they know. It's somebody who's lived addiction in a couple of cases.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody in a couple of our cases, they've been homeless. It's people like me who have had the challenges of running companies and know what it's like for a senior manager when they're saying, I've just about to break here.
Mm-hmm.
So often our chaplains get the blessing because they're able to take what has been a source of pain for them in the past and use it to help somebody else.
Wow. That is powerful. So where did your volunteers come from?
Well, at the
'Cause
danger,
it must be hard.
and the danger of preaching again is a God thing, because I don't know where on earth they came from. They just seem to show up. So the first guy, I was at a conference in the Waterfront Hall, and it was a conference of Christian business people, and there was a panel session, and I wasn't meant to be. I had just bought a ticket and was just in the audience, and then a panel member for this bit didn't show up, and the organisers knew me, and they said, "Look, would you take that empty panel seat?" So I ended up in this panel. And so the discussion took place, and it was a great discussion. And afterwards, this Scottish guy walked up to me, who turned out to be a former tax collector, which, for those who know the Gospels, had the potential to make us very biblical if the next tax collector joined us. So anyway, he expressed an interest in this chaplaincy, and he much later actually shared with me a journal he wrote that morning on the train into Belfast coming to the conference, and he had written that he felt today he was going to meet somebody and that a ministry was going to open for him, which he had been waiting on. And him and I, it was one of your divine appointments without doubt. And he brought his friend John, and before, 3 or 4 others joined him, and they formed the first training course, the students on the first course. And I know God's in this because I can't answer your question.
Mm.
I can't sit and say, I got them from here, 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 and there, and I did it. It just sort of seemed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we're at a point now where we want to grow this, because we want to help more people. And therefore we are going to have to be less, well, they just showed up, and we need to get more organised. And we are now starting to put stuff in our social media saying we're running these courses and we're asking for people to consider coming and joining. Mm-hmm. And we're being more proactive about recruiting.
So if I was to ask you to kind of like cast a vision for the future, so I think I heard you say that, you would love to have 100 chaplains. Like, what would that look like on the streets of Belfast? How would Belfast benefit from it? How would the streets change? How would the city change? Talk to us a wee bit about that.
Okay, so there's a 2-year vision and there's a 10-year vision.
Love it.
So the 2-year vision is we do have 100 chaplains in Belfast. So what that means is that there will be 2 chaplains in the city centre, behind City Hall in what's now called the Linen Quarter, a further 2 chaplains in the retail core of the city, and a further 2 chaplains in Cathedral Quarter every morning and afternoon of every day of the week. So whenever you come in to the city on any day of the week, whether you're in the office district, the retail core, whether you're down in Cathedral Quarter, there's going to be people there who are there to care, to listen, to help, to love, to look after. Ambassadors, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
They're there irrespective of, they're there for everybody irrespective of what they believe or don't believe. There's a presence of love in the city every day. We're going to need 100 chaplains to be able to put 6 out every morning and 6 out every afternoon. Bear in mind, some people can only volunteer half day a month. Now, there's others that are retired are giving us 2 days a week and so on. But so that's the 2-year thing. We hit that 100. We hit that 6 people in at all times. The 10-year vision is actually we replicate this in every city on the island of Ireland.
Mm.
So this is happening in Londonderry, Derry. This is happening in Dublin. This is happening in Limerick. This is happening in Cork. This is happening in Bangor. It's happening in Lisburn. That's the 10-year stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just Belfast. It's the cities and major towns of the island.
It's really interesting. Just thinking, like, you know, if this was to happen somewhere else in the world, like if I went on holiday to Norway or to somewhere like that, and I saw this happen, I'd be like, this is unbelievable. But the fact it's happening on the doorstep and I didn't know about it is really interesting.
And that's why we've got to grow it. It's got to become more visible. It's about visible presence. And there's really practical things that those chaplains could be doing. So, you know, I'm interested in having a conversation with the senior management team in Belfast City Council, because if those guys are there every day, there's practical stuff they could be doing. There is absolutely no reason in the world why we can't issue those chaplains with the equipment and train them properly to lift up all the needles that are lying around the city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's practical stuff that would make a real difference to citizens and visitors to the city. I want people then want to stop and have a chat.
Yeah. Tell us about East Belfast Mission. How did you get involved in that? What does it do? Give us a few stories from that.
Wow. So the first East Belfast Mission is one of 4 large inner city missions that the Methodist Church in Ireland have. So there's one up in Derry. There's East Belfast Mission, which we'll talk about. Belfast Central Mission in the city, which the chaplaincy's based out of actually, and Dublin Central Mission. And to be a mission, essentially, you need to be providing community services. So in the case of East Belfast Mission, there's a homeless hostel there. We provide emergency accommodation for people who are homeless. But because of our ethos, it's different. It's different to every hostel in the city. And because of the chaplaincy, I'm in and out of hostels and know what they look like. So they tend to be quite basic. You get your own room. If you're in crash accommodation, you might end up in a chair. But generally speaking, once you're in and established in the hostel, you'll get a room. There'll be a sink in the room, but it's certainly not en suite beyond a sink. And it'll be fairly basic. It'll be clean and well run, but it'll be basic. In the Skenos Centre in the Newtownards Road, where EBM's based, we've essentially built something that's a standard of a Premier Inn.
Mm.
Because it comes back to this ethos of respect and dignity and everybody being equal. So if we believe as a church that everybody's created in the image of God and created equal, then I can't put anybody in a room that's not a room I would want to stay in. So it's presented at a whole other level. Partly, in good part because of that ethos, but also because practically the architecture and the place makes a difference to the impact we have with people whose lives we're trying to help. If you give somebody substandard accommodation and therefore to a certain extent treat them as less than, because you wouldn't stay in it but you're asking them to, don't be surprised if they behave in a way that is less than you would want.
Mm.
Start to treat people with respect and dignity and put them in accommodation like we have over there. Provide them wraparound services. Put real love and care to it. And lo and behold, don't be surprised whenever they behave with respect and dignity, because that's how they're being treated.
Interesting.
So at one level, there's an ethos behind it. Another level is real practical. It just works. It helps people change their lives. Now, we can't change people's lives for them. Our mantra in EBM is we give people building blocks to enable them to change their lives, because people have to build their own lives. So we do the building blocks. One of them is emergency accommodation if you need it. Now, currently there's 7,500 roughly social housing units short in Northern Ireland, which means if you take 3 people to a house, there's roughly 21,000 people who are needing a home in Northern Ireland, who are entitled to it and have the points for it in the social housing scheme, but there simply is not a property to give them. So East Belfast Mission are currently in the business of procuring up to 50 homes in East Belfast, community homes, to allow us. About a third of our residents in the hostel don't need to be there, but they can't move on because there's nowhere to move on to.
Yeah.
So we're providing that move-on accommodation now. We're going to have 50 of our own homes in the east of the city.
Brilliant.
People can move on into their community home. Some of our other services then get involved. So we have a team of 13 staff, full-time, just employed and getting people into work who are long-term unemployed. So the employability team kick in and help that person to get a job and to get settled into work. We have 10 mental health counsellors in a team there. So there's a real wraparound service going on for folks. We do some challenging stuff. So we teach Irish on the Newtownards Road. Now this was a project started by a girl called Linda Irvine, and Linda's sister-in-law of David Irvine, the former politician, loyalist politician from the Progressive Unionist Party. And Linda and a number of her friends went for a taster session in the Irish language in the Ormeau Road, and they really enjoyed it. And they came back over to the mission, to East Belfast Mission, and they said to a predecessor of mine, do you think the mission might run Irish classes? And thankfully he said yes. And Linda sourced the teacher. And cut a very long story short, 10 years later, we now have this project called Terrace, which is the Irish word to go on a journey, because in some respects we're taking the community on a journey here of rediscovering their own history. There's 400 people have joined that community of learners. Some of them are very wealthy from the places like Ballyhackamore. Some of them are living in a socially deprived community in which and are living in poverty in the community immediately around the mission. Some of them are from a Protestant background, some from a Catholic, some would identify as British, some would identify as Irish, some are Muslim, some are from other countries, they're not from here at all. There's just this one, some are men, some are women, some are old, some are young. And it's almost like that first wee church, so from a Christian point of view, that first community in Rome. Rome would have been a very, very stratified society. Rich didn't mix with the poor. Romans didn't mix with Greeks. Men and women wouldn't mix in public. Everybody knew their place. And yet there's this wee community of Greeks and Jews and slaves and free and rich and poor and men and women all together. Led by a woman, by the way, but that's another thing. We'll maybe get into that another day. That's what we've sort of done with Terrace in this Irish project. All these people who shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
Well, they should, but a lot in our society think they shouldn't, have come together, 400 of them. And the Irish language is just the thing that brings them together. I remember a lady stopping me in the street, an elderly lady, she said to me, son, I remember my granny speaking Irish in Shadawley Street. Now, this woman, I reckon, was in her late 70s, so she's casting her mind back 70 years ago, or 60 years ago anyway, to her childhood. So what's that take us back to? 1950s, 60s. She remembers in the 1950s, 60s, her 80-year-old grandmother on the Newtownards Road, Shadawley Street's just off the Newtownards Road, spoke Irish as her first language. But people wouldn't remember that that's the actual history of the place.
Yeah, because that woman was born in 1870.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And therefore, Irish is something we don't do. That's something other people do. Well, actually, no, it is actually part of your history. And one of the ways we've linked people in is actually understanding place names. So people are actually understand. So somebody came into the mission the other day and they were telling me they're from Tobermore. Tober's a whale and more means big. So I was able to say to her, that means the big whale. Class. And then people are going, I didn't know that. They've lived in Tobermore all their life, didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's a long way of saying we're building community. We're building a community of people who, in Northern Ireland, a lot of folks think shouldn't be together, but we think they should.
I love it. So the vision is more people on the streets available for whatever might come up that day from whoever needs the help.
It is. And to build a community in the city centre and to help be an agent.
Mm-hmm.
One agent, we're not saying we've the monopoly in this, but to be one agent of change in the city centre that makes it a more welcoming, loving, embracive, inclusive place.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have the opportunity, and we're not going to preach it and we'll wait till we're asked, but when we have the opportunity, we do take the chance to explain why we think Christianity in particular has a role to play in that.
Switching gears slightly, talk to me about redeveloping St George's Market.
Oh,
that's a pretty cool.
That was pain and pleasure.
Pretty cool part of the career, like.
That was pain and pleasure. So, and
is it true at one point they were just like going to scrap it, or like?
Yeah,
that's mad.
So, my predecessor in the job went on. This guy called Jerry Copeland. Jerry's a great guy, absolutely fantastic guy, fantastic colleague in the council. Jerry went on to become the city's events manager, and I sort of took it over from him. So he sort of passed the baton to me. Jerry looked after the physical redevelopment. So the place, the traders were standing, and when it rained, literally the water was coming in down around them. So Jerry looked after a £5 million physical redevelopment of the building, which was completed in late 2000. And then he was moving on to the events manager's job, and I sort of took over from him. So it fell to me to really do more of the business redevelopment. But there was some really interesting characters in there at that stage. So I remember we used to go around. So day one, right? Take you to day one. Day one, Friday morning, I arrived down in this place, and the physical redevelopment's been done, but nobody's done anything to help the traders. And the traders, by the way, are just marvelous. They have absolute hearts of gold, and the work that they put in and the hours they do is just phenomenal. And they have hearts of gold, and they're just a wonderful community. And it was absolutely privileged to walk with them for 7 years. But nobody had really helped them develop their businesses. And some of the stuff that was a wee bit nuts cornerish, if I can call it that, there was a few things being sold that shouldn't really been. There might have been a bit of counterfeit stuff back in those early days. Nobody had dealt with any of that. So that fell to me. So I remember in the first journey around, there's this guy, and he was selling second-hand shoes. And I noticed as I went there, because we used to go around to collect the table money, the rent, every Friday morning, which I soon stopped because I realised walking around there with all that cash wasn't smart. But anyway, I got to this stall, and there's these shoes, right, like second-hand shoe stall. But I'm noticing a lot of them, they're like not a pair. So there's a left shoe or there's a right shoe, but there's not the other one.
Yeah.
So we got back to the market office, and I said to one of the market's assistants, "What's that all about?" And they looked at me as if I was the stupidest guy on the planet. They went, "He doesn't sell shoes." I went, "What's he sell?" "Cigarettes from Spain, they're onto the table." It's like, oh, right, okay. So, yeah. And then there was counterfeit CDs. Back in the days of CDs, there's a lot of counterfeit CDs. And some of the people involved in that had interesting suppliers.
Sure.
So we had to have a conversation with them, and that got a bit lively at times. Police would have been down regularly enough in those early days, so that was fine. Well, look, over time I sorted some of that stuff out. I took 5 councillors and 5 market traders on a trip to Borough Market in London, probably about 2002, because Borough Market had really taken off, and it was just this fantastic place. And I wanted some of the leaders and some of the sort of thought leaders within the market traders themselves to see that. And I wanted some councillors to see it because I needed some money. And we sort of then really invested in promoting the market. And we started the Saturday food market. And we wrote to every food company in Ireland. If you produced food, marketed food, packaged food, did anything with food, you got a letter from us. We started the Saturday market as a food market. And it just took off, really. We were inundated, and it just, yeah, it was great. And a lot of people in that Saturday food market when it started had never traded a market in their life before. And there's some huge stories come out of it. So Suki Tea, Oscar started with a market stall on a Saturday in St George's Market with me. Mash Direct, Martin from Mash Direct had come down and took a stall, and look where Mash Direct is now. Yeah. But you could go on all day with stories about the market traders. But one of the fruit and veg traders came into me one day and said, "I haven't got my." We'd moved their rent collection into the office. I had to bring their money into the office, and this lady came into the office and says, "I've no rent a day, Andrew. It just, there wasn't, just didn't do very well today." She says, "But here, take this," and she threw down this cellophane packet with this brown powder in it. And of course, I flipped the lid, Get that out of here! I don't want it. So it was a wind up. It was potato dust. They were at it all the time. So it was good crack.
Class.
And I mean, I'm in and out now, maybe once a month or so, because we've chaplains in there, and I still get to see the guys and have a chat with them. And there's wonderful, and it is a wee community. So there's two of them got engaged there a couple of weeks ago. I'll not mention any names in case I don't want to publish. But two of the traders got engaged there a couple of weeks ago and been at that. But then a few weeks ago, I had one of the traders, a few months ago, one of the traders committed suicide. When the chaplains went to the funeral, and there's marriages, there's deaths, there's births, there's baptisms, there's everything goes on in a community, and it's lovely to be part of their lives.
It's the human experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, I'm grateful for your time today. I'm grateful for the work that you guys do, and I think it's really unique. And I think it's really needed. I was sharing with you before we started, very early on in my career, I spent a lot of time working with the homeless in New York. And I think maybe the one thing that people don't realize is that beyond the practical, the house and the food and all that sort of stuff, the thing that can actually really start moving the needle in somebody's life is the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I love that you guys are putting yourselves out there, every day in the same place, just being available to have those conversations and build those relationships, whether it's the person on the street or, the high-flying store managers, I think you said it. Mm. And we all need help sometimes. And
totally,
the kindness of strangers is a very powerful tool. Mm-hmm. And that's what you guys are in the business of. So, yeah, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.